The only thing I use the Times-Dispatch for is to grab my textbooks, keep them safe.
Yeah, I used to use the Times newspaper, but it was just to make paper mache masks. So.
To be honest, it's a chore, so really there's no use in getting the paper anymore. It's easier to get it online than just recycle and waste paper.
Yeah, when I'm done, I use the Times-Dispatch to clean my bird cage.
The Richmond Times-Dispatch had been delivering news to Central Richmond since 1903. After merger with the Richmond News Leader, it became the primary daily newspaper in the Richmond area. However, like many newspapers, its popularity began to decline steadily since the early 2000s.
I don't read the newspaper at all. It's just something I wish I did, but I'm just not really interested in it. It doesn't really have anything that affects me personally. I read more of magazines than newspapers. So.
I never read the Times-Dispatch. If I've ever read it, it was probably just the crossword or maybe a comic or something. I've never really picked it up that I can remember.
How often do you read the Times-Dispatch?
Never.
Maybe like once a month, I guess.
I've actually never read the Times-Dispatch. I've seen it a couple times, never really picked it up.
You can attribute the decline of the Richmond Times-Dispatch to many things, but mostly the internet and mobile phones.
Basically everything online, just because it's quicker. I kind of have a routine at the beginning of the day where I kind of just hit a couple of websites like CNN, BBC, just kind of get like a worldly thing. The only time I'll ever read the Times-Dispatch is like if I'm in line paying for something and it's there, I'll like skim the front page.
Hopefully they incorporate less publications and like they distribute their media through the internet more would be nice.
Online, bbc.com, bbc.org, and then CNN. That's it, online, really.
Online, basically, yeah.
Any certain websites?
Usually when I go on like on AOL.com, their face page has all kinds of news and stuff. I may go, if it's a specific thing I'm looking for, like sports, I'll go to ESPN or something. And if it's like world events, I may go to CNN.com or something like that.
Watching TV.
CNN or the local news to try to find out, or the internet.
The Richmond Times-Dispatch saw a decline in sales and advertising revenue like most traditional newspapers. As a matter of fact, in 2009, 70% of area businesses did not advertise with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. As of 2013, basically no one was reading the Times-Dispatch in print form.
I feel like they have a base now where people like read it regularly, but I feel like a lot of the younger generation, it might kind of die out more because you can access newspapers online now. So I feel like people do that instead of actually spending money on newspapers. So they get their news information from online. So
I think to an extent they're relevant, but not with the resources that we're using to print them on, like trees. We shouldn't be cutting down trees for paper. If we could print it on some sort of other medium that you could hold, that would be great. But if it all has to be the internet or on a digital screen, I don't have a really big problem with that. I don't know.
The way like we're shifting into more digital forms of media, I think it'll definitely, the paper aspect will be phased out. I don't know if it'll be in 5 years, but definitely sooner or later it's just gonna get killed by like the internet.
Me personally, I don't think newspapers in general is going to last that long. I mean, everything seems to be going electronic, so I doubt they're going to stay in print. They may, in 5 years, be in a transitional period where they're trying to go to electronic, but yeah, so.
I think it'll still be in paper form only because most people read it on Sundays just to get the coupons.
I guess it really won't exist. A lot of people get their information from online.
The interviews you just saw were from 5 years ago in 2010. Today, the Times-Dispatch is only available through mobile and internet, and they work out of a small office. The old Times-Dispatch building is now a museum.